we left our like good paying corporate jobs and left our apartment. This is either going to be like one of the best decisions I make in my life, or this is going to be like the thing that I'm like, oh, I shouldn't have done this. And I've never once felt like, hey, this was like the wrong move. I feel like it just like opened up a whole, like, I don't know, bunch of possibilities and kind of like helped me build this life that I did feel excited about. And you know what? I went into my 200-hour, not sure if I wanted to teach. For me, probably the most like financially lucrative part of my business has been.
Hi, I'm Kelly. Welcome to Kelly Talks brand. In this podcast series, Tea with Kelly is where we talk about wellness, growth, and personal branding. Your subscription really helped me produce more content like this. Thank you for being part of the journey. Hi, Amanda. Welcome to the show. For people that doesn't know you, would you mind introducing yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much for having me, Kelly. I'm excited to be here. And my name is Amanda, like you said. And
Mhm.
I'm from Alberta, Canada originally, but currently based in central Mexico with my husband and two small daughters. And I am a 500-hour registered yoga teacher. I'm a podcast host, an author, and a business coach, as well as a
Mhm.
mom of two, like I said before. So that's kind of the brief overview of who I am.
Got in touch with each other through the business of yoga through Vancouver School Healing Arts, the yoga teacher training course. I learned a lot from Amanda about how to promote yourself as a yoga teacher, how to do your online business. And I've been listening to your Master the Business of Yoga, MBOm
Yeah.
podcast for the last little while. I think last Monday, just like 2 days ago, was the last send off for the whole podcast.
Yeah, a little bit of bad timing working with me and being in the part of the podcast, but we have 400. There's 400 episodes out there, so lots to listen to.
But I think that's an exciting moment that we can talk about that later. I think before we head over there, I want to know more about your journey from your marketing background to yoga, kind of what inspired the transition and have you learned along the way?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question. Yeah, so when I graduated from high school, I didn't really have like a career plan, but I knew I wanted to go to university. And so I decided to
Mhm.
major in business and study business. And when I studied at the University of Calgary. And so you don't have to decide a major right away.
Right.
So it was just kind of in general business studies. And then I think it
Mhm.
was in my third year, you have to declare something. So in my second year, I was really trying to figure out like, what do I want to do? What kind of career do I want to have? And
Yeah.
one of my roommates at the time was telling me, she was in business also and she was majoring in marketing. And she's like, I feel like you'd really like marketing. Like it's like kind of the more creative side of business. And there's,
Yeah.
lots of cool career paths with this. And I kind of did a bit of research about it and was like, okay, why don't I
Mhm.
major in this? Like I just really had no idea. And so I ended up doing that. I liked the major. I liked the courses I was taking. I graduated from university. I found my first, I call it like my big girl job working in, it was a little bit of marketing. It was also like as like a program coordinator. So I was doing a lot of like kind of almost like small scale event planning. And I liked that and I thought it was interesting, but I had this strong sense of like, I'm 22 at the time. I'm like making pretty good money for a 22-year-old. And I'm just like, is this it? Like, is this what I'm
Mhm.
going to do till I'm like 65 and I can retire? Like, it just feels like getting up every morning and like putting on a pencil skirt and some flats and like
I know.
commuting to
The
work and
corporate.
working all day. Yeah, just like, I don't know. And some people love it. And I think that that's great. Like, this is not me hating on like a corporate lifestyle, because if that's for you, I think that that's really cool. Just for me, there was kind of this like inner sense and inner knowing of like, I think this is not what I'm destined to be doing. And so I worked in that job for 2 years. And then my now husband, boyfriend at the time, and I decided to quit our job, sell our stuff, and go to South America for 6 months. And that was really like a period of discovery, like just trying to figure out, like, hey, what do we want to do?
Mhm.
And when we came back to Canada, we decided not to go back and get corporate jobs. We decided to move into the mountains and out of the city and just work jobs that paid our bills and then just gave us time to kind of figure out what we wanted to do on the side. And so I had been practicing yoga for a while at that point. I had first started while I was in university. I was doing it a ton during that corporate job chapter of my life just to have like a moment to turn inwards to myself, to move my body
Absolutely.
after sitting all day. And I was like, maybe I want to do something with yoga. And so I was working at Lululemon. I started working at a yoga studio part-time doing studio management and just admin work. My husband and I started a travel podcast. So we were super early adopters into podcasting because this was 2014.
Mhm.
And I did my yoga teacher training, my first one. So I decided in that I wanted to, take 30 days and go travel. And so I went to Bali and did a yoga teacher training. I was really just like kind of following the strings of interest for me. Like, hey, I really like yoga. Maybe I could do something with this. Like, hey, there's this great yoga teacher and they're looking for somebody to work at their studio. I'll apply for this gig. And I got that. And my husband had been really into podcasts. And so he's like, we should start a podcast and talk about travel. We've traveled a lot. And so all of that kind of like led to all the things that came after it. But
Mhm.
that's really how I transitioned out. It was like, just this like feeling like, hey, this is fine, but it's not great. Like, could we live
Mhm.
a life that's great? And just kind of spending the following years just trying to figure out what that looked like for me.
And I guess you're also teaching at other schools besides Visoha, or Vancouver School of Healing Arts is the only school that you're teaching there.
Aviso is the only school that I teach with, and it's actually kind of a fun story. So when I started my podcast, Mastering the Business of Yoga, I launched it at the beginning of 2016. February 1st, 2016 was when it
Yeah,
launched.
quite
And so
early.
I was recording episodes before that.
Mhm.
And I mean, we can talk about how that all came to be, but I was really, I was trying to do the whole yoga teacher thing. I wanted to teach yoga, and I was just
Yeah.
like, how am I supposed to like actually make a career out of this if they're,
Or make money.
people. Yeah, exactly. Like I was getting these gigs that were like $35 for an hour. And I was like, and then
Not
you think about
sustainable.
all that goes in it, like the prep that goes into it and coming early to the class and closing up the
Mhm.
studio after. And I was like, I have no idea how people are doing this. And so I
Yeah.
wanted to really like learn from people who are ahead of me and teach people who are, coming behind me.
Mhm.
And I interviewed the studio owner that I worked with for many, many years. He was my first interview, an easy yes for the show. And then he was like, hey, I know lots of people because he'd been teaching for like 20 years. He's like, I can introduce you to somebody. And he introduced me to Lauren Rogley, who used to be the director of the yoga teacher trainings at Visoha. And
Mhm.
so I was talking to her and I was like, what, as she was telling me about the program, I was like, wow, this just sounds like the exact type of program I was looking into for my
For yeah.
300. And I
Mhm.
wasn't ready to do my 300 hour at that point. And so it was a couple years before I eventually got there. And by that point, she had moved out of that role. Rebecca had stepped into it. And
Mhm.
I interviewed for the program and got in, and I did it in 19. And after I finished my 300 hour there, Rebecca asked if I wanted to come in and teach the business of yoga. I think she said
Mhm.
something like, I think you're more passionate about this than me. Would you like to take this over? And it was like a dream come true to be asked to do that because
Uh-huh.
one of the things that I really wanted to kind of share with my podcast and just my
Mhm.
mission is like helping teachers right off the gate. Like for me, I didn't have like our business of yoga section in my 200-hour training was like, you need insurance and you should probably have a waiver. And I was like,
Yeah.
okay,
Mhm.
great. And so, coming out of teacher training, I'm like, it's great. I know how to teach if I can be in front of people, but like, how do I actually get a job? How do I get
Right.
somebody to hire me? Where do I find these
Mhm.
jobs? What do I need for these jobs? And so I was really like stumbling my way trying to figure that out. And that's, yeah, how my whole business was created and kind of what I've wanted to bring to Visoha is what I needed as a new yoga teacher.
And you're going to be continue teaching there for the business of yoga, right? Moving forward.
Yeah. Yeah. So, kind of my plan we kind of hinted that my podcast is slowing down. So, I've decided not to put out new episodes of my show going forward, but all the resources are going to be there. Everything's going to live on my website. People can get all of the freebies. They have access to my courses. And then, yeah, I'm going to continue teaching in the teacher training program. I
Mhm.
teach in the yoga teacher training program and then the yoga therapy program as well. So I'll continue
Cool.
doing
Mhm.
that. So I still feel like passionate about the mission. I've just, like I said at the beginning, I have two small kids. They're 3.5 and almost 1.5. And it's just
Mhm.
gone by so fast. And I just feel like I'm not going to get these years back with my little ladies. And
Mhm.
so I feel like I've kind of like like, it's kind of like I've organized a closet and I'm closing it for now, but it's like maybe we'll revisit it in the future. Who knows?
Yeah, I guess since we're on the topic, you mentioned you have 2 kids, you're living in Mexico. I'm assuming that sort of balancing work and family, there's a little bit of a something have to give at the current moment. Is that why you're sort of shifting away from the podcast world and focusing more on other endurers? Because I know you also have a Yoga Nidra YouTube. You're starting that out and trying to,
Mhm.
grow that. Is that the shift of the focus currently?
Yeah, so yeah, basically my journey with like working and having small kids was that when I was pregnant with my eldest daughter, so I was
Mhm.
pregnant with her kind of through 2021. She was born in early 2022. I had somebody who was working with me to help me with my podcast, and then I had somebody who was like producing my show for me. So I basically had two people on my team, and so what I did was I like backlogged a bunch of episodes so that
Mhm.
basically I could quietly go on maternity leave and my show could keep running. And we had about like 4 months of episodes backlogged. And so, as that like 4 months approached, I was like, okay, am I going to go back? Am I going to take longer? And I kind of felt like the transition to motherhood for me was very like, it was like a little bit uncomfortable. Like I was sort of like
Mhm.
grasping for like my old self. And so I kind of
Mhm.
like grasped onto the thing that was like most comfortable for me, which was my work. And so
Mhm.
I went back into my work and I did it very slowly, which is great. Like I was only working a couple hours a week and I was able to bring a nanny in part time to help me with my daughter so I could record interviews and stuff. And, I slowly built back up until I was working. I think I was probably back to pretty close to full time work by the time she was like maybe a year and a half. And then when I got pregnant with my second daughter, I just said, I want like I want a longer period of time off work. Like I felt like this consistent pull of like, when I was with my daughter, I'd be thinking about work. And when I was working, I was
Yeah.
thinking about my daughter. And it's just like
Mhm.
this crazy, like human aspect of our minds where we're like, I don't know, it's like the contentment piece, right? Like we're not,
Mhm.
we have to work so hard to just be content with what we're doing in the moment. And I was really struggling with being pulled in two directions. And so when
Mhm.
I was thinking about adding another baby to the mix, I was like, well, being pulled in three directions sounds terrible. And I also had this like, wow, it really goes by so quickly. Like it can feel really long sometimes, like the days can feel really long, but then
Mhm.
it's like I blinked and it's like I had a 2-year old and a second on the way and was like, what's happened, in the last couple
Mhm.
years. And so my husband and I planned for me to take a year off. And yeah, it's been like almost a year and a half and I'm still not back working full time. But as I approached that year, as my younger daughter approached becoming one, turning one, I was thinking to myself, like, what do I want to be doing? If I am taking time away from my kids, like, what do I want to spend time doing? I just felt like this sort of completeness with my podcast. Like, I just felt like, hey,
Mhm.
I've done this for almost 10 years. I've put out like 400 episodes. I've
Yeah,
had
that's a
some
lot
of the
for achievement.
yeah, it's so much. I've had
Uh-huh.
so many amazing conversations. I've had really, really cool guests on the show. Like, I'm grateful
Mhm.
for all of it. But I was like, I think I'm just ready for a change. And so I've been just exploring writing on Substack over the last like 6 months to a year. I just got
Mhm.
certified in yoga. That's been like my number one form of self care as like a new mom with like pretty bad sleep the last couple of
Mhm.
years and feeling
I
very
can
tired.
imagine.
And
One after
yeah.
another.
Yeah, exactly, and, like, I feel like I have, like, little hands on me constantly, so it's like Yoga Nidra's just been this, like, really, like, safe place for me, and so I've kind of felt this, like, desire to just sort of explore something else. So, yeah, that's kind of where I've been at, but I think if there's, like, any moms out there listening, they can probably relate to this, like, it's just hard. It's like this other big thing that pulls you. And, prior to my like human babies, like my podcasts were really my
Mhm.
babies. Like my book was
Right.
my baby. Like these things that I like created and brought to life were,
Mhm.
kind of these like things that I was most proud of that were kind of most important to me. And now I've got these like tiny humans. Like, they're the most important thing now. Yeah, it's a big, interesting shift.
And because, like, I feel like Yoga Nidra, it could be almost a separate podcast by itself in a way, because you can listen to it while you're sleeping without the visual guide on the
Mhm.
screen. Were you thinking about continuing the MBOm or like a separate Yoga Nidra? or they just wanted to completely off on Substack and YouTube by themselves?
N No, yeah, I actually, have been putting my yoga nidras out on Spotify, and this wasn't actually my plan, but I was just gonna do it on YouTube because I have, like, a couple hundred people who follow me on YouTube, and so I started
Yeah.
putting my nidras out there, and then I was getting some comments from people that are like, "Oh, it's great, except there was an ad in the middle," and so I started diving
Mm.
into what was going on, and YouTube has this, like, kind of frustrating rule that if you have under 500 subscribers, you can't control ad placement, not
No.
getting any money. So I feel like, and if you don't know that, it just seems like, oh, I smacked an ad in the middle of your like peaceful, sleepy
I
rest
know
time.
that'll
Like,
be so
so terrible, right? Like, I feel like at least if
Yeah.
you're practicing yoga, like at least you're moving around and you can kind of take a second to skip the ad. Like,
Yeah,
the whole
yeah.
purpose of yoga nidra is to like let your brain like slow down, get into like
Mhm.
the deep state of rest. Like, what is more disturbing than an ad that's blaring in your ears all of a sudden about something that you're probably not that interested in?
Yeah.
And I don't make a cent off of it. So it's like I don't
Mhm.
want to do that to people. And so I was kind of like, it's probably going to be like a minute before I can get 500 people to subscribe, especially with these ads. So I've
Mhm.
started like a separate podcast channel to
Mm.
on Spotify to share the yoga nidras. So I've been calling it, I called it the peaceful pause.
Peaceful pause. Oh, great
Yeah,
name.
I can send you a link if you want.
Nice. So that's, I guess, at the same time, because you have different podcasts going on. So we're just like a send off on the business of yoga side, but you're moving on to the yoga nidra podcast world.
Yeah, that's kind of, yeah. I'm kind of maybe back into this, like, where I was like 10 years ago, or I guess a little more,
Hmm.
almost 12 years ago, in this kind of discovery phase once again of like, hey, I want to mostly spend like time with my kids while they're little, but like, what are some other things that are kind of driving interest and passion for me?
Hmm.
And just kind of exploring that in the hours that I do have available. I feel like I
Yeah.
always like to have like, something for myself, like kind of a project or something.
Hmm.
And I really like the creative aspect of creating things and putting them out there. And so I feel like that's kind of what writing and stepping back into the role of a teacher in a different
Hmm.
capacity has been for me over the last little bit. And this is all very new. It's just been in the last like couple of months. So we'll see.
Hmm.
We'll see where it goes.
And you mentioned that while you're sort of taking a maternity leave after you give birth to your kids, you were working with producer or someone that worked with your podcast. So they are the one you just produce or like record them and then they do the editing. How does that work with someone like kind of off the side, you just doing the recording?
So I had somebody so the first 5 years of my podcast, or I guess 4 years of my podcast, I did everything myself. And
Mm.
then that was like, I'd already done this with my husband and I's travel podcast. So I was very familiar with that. And then at the end of 2019, I decided to hire two people, somebody to help with my podcast and somebody to help with some other aspects of my business, like, scheduling clients and podcast interviews and checking emails and social media and those types of things.
Mm.
And that was amazing, especially when I was stepping away from maternity leave, to just put my business basically in the hands of people that I trusted and be able to have things running
Mhm.
um, behind, like with me not as a part of it. I was basically just the voice of MBOm.
Mhm.
And when I went on maternity leave in 2024 for my second baby, like those two people stepped away from the role. So we kind of
Okay.
tied things up and they stepped away. And so it's actually been interesting because for this, I've been doing this send off series that just ended on Monday. There's
Yeah.
6 episodes in it. And so I did like all the recording, all the production,
Uh-huh.
all the emails, all the social media. I was like, oh, dang. It's like so
That's a
much
lot of
easier
work.
when when somebody helps you with this stuff.
Mhm.
I feel like it was nice to kind of do all of that myself to really like close that chapter. And then,
Mhm.
yeah, for the yoga nidras, I've just been producing it all myself. It's not something I've been making money off so far. So I'm just doing it, doing it all myself again, which has been fun. But yeah, it is really nice to have somebody do like your editing and production for you.
I know. I mean, because I'm just starting with YouTube and podcasts. I exactly know what it's like. Oh, after I record, script, film, and I gotta do all editing and then posting and show notes, and it's like mountain of other work involved with the whole podcast world. And I'm curious, how do you find those two people that work with you? Do you just kind of is different platform like Fiverr or whatnot, or you just introduced by someone? that you can work with?
Yeah. Do you know what's interesting is I have a friend, her name's Renee Claire, and she was doing some work helping people like basically hire for their businesses. And so
Mhm.
when I decided that I did want to hire, I did a consultation call with her and
Okay.
she helped me really like sit down and outline like what are the tasks that I want help with. So,
Mm,
basically making a list of like what I would like to get off my plate so that I could focus on other things. And
mhm,
as I kind of like actually created the two roles I was looking for, so like basically a virtual assistant and like a podcast producer, I
mhm.
realized that I had two people in my network that were perfect for that role. And
Oh, cool.
so I just happened to reach out to both of them and say like, "Hey, are you looking for?" My assistant was only working like 5 hours a week for me. Like she was just very
Mhm.
part-time. And I was just like, "Hey, I'm looking for this. This is how much I can pay." And she was like, "Yeah, done. I'm happy to work with you." And it was amazing because I had the same person work with me for 5 years, basically 4 years.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah,
Save a
amazing.
lot of
And she was,
time just, like, back and forth, reworking, finding the
yeah,
pattern and schedule.
yeah, for sure. And when it was actually her who decided to step away, and I'd asked her if she could just stay on for like a couple more weeks just to kind of help me get through mat leave, which she did, which was amazing.
Right.
And she was like, I'm happy to like train somebody new. And I was like, you know what? I think I'm taking a maternity leave. I actually don't think I need any any help right now, but thank you so much.
Mhm.
She made like videos and stuff, so she was amazing. And then with the production, I ended up hiring one person and then they were stepping away and then they actually recommended people to me. So they
Yeah.
were like, I have somebody that's going to take over all my clients. Like, do you want to work with them? And I ended up doing that. I think that happened like 3 times.
Mhm. I
So,
see.
and then while I was on maternity leave, he actually messaged me and said, "Hey, I got a full-time job, so I'm not going to be doing this anymore."
Unfortunately.
Yeah, it was fine though. I wasn't producing episodes at that point and I wasn't sure what my plan was. Cause basically with my podcast, I like put out an episode that was like, I'm going on maternity leave, like I'll be back
Mhm.
sometime. And that's really where the send off series came from. I had this as I like came to my daughter being one. I was like, I feel like I really need to decide what I want to do. Like, I just don't want to
Mhm.
have my last episode of the show be like, hey, I went on maternity leave. And then like somebody finds the podcast 5 years later and they're like, what?
And I guess I'm also because I just graduated from yoga teacher training. There's my cohort, another 18 of them just graduated. How has it been since, I guess, 10 years ago that after you graduate and the yoga world? Because I've always heard that you don't make a lot of money as yoga teacher. And of course, we were taught by you on the business of yoga.
Hmm.
How is it for you, like financially over the years? And I guess what are the recommendation you give to the yoga, new yoga teacher, how they survive this moving
Yeah,
forward?
yeah, for sure. I think that there's a lot of ways to kind of structure a business as a yoga teacher. So for me, I've never been just like a full-time yoga teacher. I have always had yoga teaching plus other things. And that's been in part that I feel like I'm like a very multi-passionate person. I feel like I was never ready to like give up the other things I had going on.
Mm,
And then also I just kind of like to have like various things on my plate and bring income from different places. And when I kind of sat down and thought like, okay, how many classes do I have to teach per week in order to like make this work? Like what's the minimum amount I need to just like pay my bills type thing? Like not even to like
mhm,
thrive, but just to survive. I think it came back as like 15 or 20 classes. And for me, I just felt like I think that's like too much for me. Like I sit more in the range of like 5 classes a week is kind of like a nice number for me, which would be like considered a part-time yoga teacher, right? Not like a
right.
full-time yoga teacher. And so
Mhm,
knowing that, I knew that like, hey, I need to supplement income with other things. Like this will just be a part of what I do. And yeah, I feel like it's one of the things about working for yourself is that you don't have the consistent. My husband, for example,
income
has a
stream.
full-time job. Like every month he makes the same amount of money. And so it's
Yeah.
kind of like just a different, it's just different, right? It's different getting
Mhm,
like that consistent paycheck every single 2 weeks or once a month or however often you get paid versus like, you know, this month I had a bunch of extra clients and I made more money and this month I made a little less. So
mhm,
I feel like that lifestyle is like not for everyone. Like for some people, that's really stressful. And if that's the
yeah.
case, then I think just setting yourself up so that you have more consistency can be helpful. But I would say if you do want to teach full time, like it's definitely possible. You can teach more group classes, like I said. And then there's also ways that you can build your business outside of just teaching group classes. And we talked about, lots of this stuff in trainings, but you can run workshops, you can teach private
Mm-hmm.
classes, you could do registered programs for your students. Retreats are a great option, teaching corporate. And then I think one of the biggest things that's kind of shifted like in the last 10 years since I became a yoga teacher, which I think is a huge opportunity for yoga teachers, especially like yourself kind of coming out into the world of yoga and yoga
Yeah.
teaching, is being able to do everything online.
Mm-hmm.
When I was starting, and one of the things that I actually kind of struggled with is that I wanted to teach yoga, but I also wanted to travel. And so I was trying
Mm-hmm.
to figure out
Yeah.
like, how do I balance this like teaching and traveling thing?
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like, I mean, for anyone who's listening who wants to teach and travel, it's way easier now that everything's online, right? Like post
Yeah.
pandemic. But also, I just think it gives you this opportunity to create your business without like all of the overhead that was kind of
Mm-hmm.
required kind of pre yoga being online. So I do think it's possible to create a sustainable income as a yoga teacher if you want to teach that much, or you can kind of do something like I did and kind of blend your career with other things. So I've
Mm-hmm.
had my podcasts. I was working as a studio manager for a long time. I was working in retail. I did lots of like side gigs during that
Mm-hmm.
period. Like I worked for Lululemon, I worked for a cafe. I was in my, was I mid 20s at that point. So I feel like for me, it was just like, hey, let's just like do a lot of things and kind of experiment with what works and what doesn't. And I felt like I was really
Mm-hmm.
in like the chapter of life where I could do that at that point.
And would you ever trade that to a full-time job? The stability of having a full-time job, have insurance and have maternity leave benefits and all that. Or like your freedom and just, I want to do, if even though I'm juggling a few things, I still prefer to have my own time. If you learned something new so far, make sure you hit the like button and subscribe to the channel so I can produce more contents like this for you.
Yeah, this is a really great question. I've gone back and forth, and there's been times where I'm like, maybe I should just like stop doing this, especially when it's been hard or it's been challenging. I've been like, maybe I
Mm-hmm.
should just get a full-time job. And every time I felt that way, what I do is I go on LinkedIn and
Yeah.
I look at jobs in my specialization. So I look at
Uh-huh.
like marketing roles, or I look at are there roles for people of like, because I've worked in like the yoga industry for like a decade now. Like, are there roles
Yeah.
for people who have yoga experience, people who do podcasting, content creation, like that type of thing? And every single time I've done that, I've come away being like, no, I think I'm good. So I don't know. I feel like that's really worked for me. Like, it kind of leads me back to like, what's important to me, what my why is, like why I've chosen this life. But I think at the end of the day, I think there's trade-offs to both, right? And for me, it's been like the lifestyle and the flexibility has been more important to me than I guess the consistent income. I
Mhm.
think part of it is also that, especially over the last, I guess, like 4 years, my husband has been in a full-time job. And so
Mhm.
obviously we are like co-sharing our resources. And so that's been able to support our family while I've been able to like have a lot more flexibility to take care of our kids.
Mhm.
Prior to that, we were both self-employed, and so we were both kind of like we were both like we've been doing fine for ourselves, but we were in
Mhm.
this like kind of like inconsistent income period. And that was fine for us in that chapter of life. We were nomadic for, I guess, like 6 years, pretty much.
Mhm.
Obviously, the pandemic slowed us down quite a bit, but I feel like that was like a really fun, cool chapter of life to be able to
Mhm.
travel and live all over the world. And it's what eventually led us to living more full time in Mexico. And so I definitely wouldn't trade like all of that, like life experience and
Mhm.
adventure and fun that I've had for a corporate job.
You sit on the desk 8 hours
Yeah,
a day,
exactly.
selling
Like
your soul.
I wondered, like we both wondered, like it was the end of 2013, beginning of 2014 when we left our like good paying corporate jobs and left our apartment. Like I was like, is this going to be like this is either going to be like one of the best decisions I make in my life, or this is going to be like the thing that I'm like, oh, I shouldn't have done this. And I've never once felt like, hey, this was like the wrong move. Like,
Mhm.
I feel like it just like opened up a whole, like, I don't know, bunch of possibilities and kind of like helped me build this life that I did feel excited about. It gave me that,
Mhm.
like, hey, I don't have to just like sit in this office till I'm 65, like the confidence to do that.
Honestly, 'cause, I feel that very closely right now because I left my job early this year in May.
Mhm.
It's a corporate, I mean, good paying job in a way because I had my background in landscape architecture. So I do design parks, playgrounds, which sounds like a very cool job.
Yeah.
But the mundane sitting in front of computer all day long, just drafting and editing revisions over and over, just took a toll on my mental space. I'm like, I don't know if I can do this for the even the next year. I just
Yeah.
feel like this
Much
is
less till
not
you're 65.
yeah. Like I don't see the future moving forward. I'm like, I need something that I can feel more in my body. I feel empowered. I feel that I'm passionate about and feel like I'm helping other people. That's kind of like I quit the job and I just took maybe a month or two just figuring out what my life goes and I select yoga. I mean, that's only yoga. I feel like you said, that you need a lot of multiple income streams to support yourself along the way. And that's how I started the social media, doing podcasts and trying to find, I guess, different sponsorship or affiliate marketing just to get some income coming as I'm
Mhm.
spending a lot of time on this. But yeah, I don't think I'll regret because I just feel like I'm happier. Maybe I'm not financially getting a lot of energy in, but I'm sure it's going to come from different revenues, like from different streams. 'Cause I feel like if you're happy, you have a lot more energy. You're just going to attract beautiful things to your life, whether that's friendship or just good, I don't know, fortune or honestly, because you don't know when, let's say, you don't know what's going to come first, the end of the earth or tomorrow. Because I just feel like
Yeah.
living happily today, being present is more important for me than having that stability and think I'll make the paycheck every 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, for sure. I love that. Yeah. I feel like I'm very aligned with that mindset. And I think it's really cool and amazing to be able to like step into a chapter where you're like following your passions and your interests. And I think it's something that's kind of cool about like, I don't know, like our generation of people is there's a lot more people kind of being like, hey, I'm gonna take like a hit financially right now and just like
mhm.
explore what I'm excited about. Because like you said, I mean, you could plan for retirement and to do all the things you wanted to do, but who knows how long we're going to live or like what
I know.
health we're going to be in. Like, I don't know. That's always been the thing for me. I'm like, if I want to go do something or I want to experience something, like I want to do it now. I don't want to wait, you know?
Mhm.
Like when I was making these decisions, I'm like, I don't want to wait 40 years. And now, I don't want to wait 30 years.
And honestly, I also felt that unless you're like super, super smart, you're like, I don't know, graduate from Ivy League, working for a company is not going to get you that much return of investment anyways, because you're spending a third of your life in the office and plus traveling and mentally stressed out after work. If you're doing your own business and you really try hard and you made it, you're gonna make a lot more money than working for someone at a company. That's just my perspective. I don't know how you think about that. And then you can always
Yeah.
go back. The option of going back to full-time job is always there. I mean, it's hard to find a
Yeah.
job right now, but you can always go back. Like if you really just want a full-time job.
Yeah, for sure. This has always been my thing has been like, I mean, I feel pretty confident that at the very least I could get hired at like Starbucks if I desperately needed to. So I feel like that
Yeah.
always like is in the back of my head of like,
Uh-huh.
yeah, for sure I could go back to corporate, but like even if I can't find a job in corporate, like I could for sure like work at Starbucks or something like that. But
Mhm.
no, I agree with you. I think that there's like there's like a ceiling on corporate jobs. Like there's only so far we can move up. There's only so much we
Mhm.
can get paid. And I think that while there's like can be more uncertainty with like working for yourself or going the route of starting your own business, I think that the like opportunities are really endless. Like I don't think that there's like a ceiling on how much you can make or what you can do or how many people you can work with and
Mhm.
serve. And so I think that that's really cool. And it can be scary to kind of think about not having that consistent paycheck. But I think
Mhm.
like you said before, if you just trust, like if you follow the things you're interested in and you are putting things out into the world that you're passionate about, like people are going to be attracted to that. And when you have the time and energy and capacity for that, then I think you will bring in income. So it will
Mhm.
happen. It's just
Yeah.
sometimes we have to be a bit more like patient with it. And I think people get like really attracted to the big numbers, right? Like cuz
Mhm.
money gives us the capacity to do a lot of things, right? And so people especially as they make more money, it becomes harder to like step away or change careers or leave those roles.
Mhm.
When I first did this, like I was making like $50,000 a year. And so that's like an easier amount to replace than if you're like deep into your career and you make $250,000 a year.
Mhm. And like no money for 2 years or something like that.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Like it's a big jump. It's scary. There's a lot of uncertainty with that. But I think whenever we trust like our gut, our intuition, and follow the things we're excited about, I think it leads us good places.
And I guess just on average for the last 10 years, what parts of your work bring you the most return of investment financially? Would you mind sharing that?
Yeah, for sure. So for me, probably the most like financially lucrative part of my business has been like the coaching side of things.
Mhm.
So working with people like one on one. So that's been something I didn't do that when I first started out because I didn't really feel like I had like I guess like the expertise to kind of coach people. But a
Yeah.
few years into my journey, that was something that I started offering and it consistently like grew and grew over the years. I would say that for me was the most financially lucrative. And for yoga teachers listening, this really kind of tracks into like the private yoga or the one-on-one yoga. So if you
Mhm.
kind of think about, if you're teaching for like 35 or $50 a class, you know, if you're teaching one-on-one with somebody, you can charge like $150 for a session,
Mhm.
depending on how long and if you're going to them and that type of thing. But you just think about like that's kind of a greater return on
Right.
investment. And so for me, I kind of applied that same thing is like working with people one-on-one is going to be much better for my business and especially to be able to sell people a package. So like a package of
Mhm.
like 10 coaching sessions where I'm going to work with somebody over the course of, that could be almost a year if we're only meeting once a week or
Mhm.
sorry, once a month. Um, that could be, yeah, just a much better
Mhm.
kind of return on investment for my business. That's definitely been for me. And I've also done not only my own coaching in my business, I've also like worked as like a coach for a couple of other businesses. And so that's been like a
Mhm.
helpful bit of income as well.
So when you say coaching, is that means coaching for yoga student? Like they want to learn yoga or they're trying to start their own business, you're coaching to help them start their own business, or it's a bit of both?
Yeah, I've done both over the years. I think for the most part, over the last like probably 5 to 8 years, it's been mostly
Mhm.
helping people with their businesses, just sitting down and supporting somebody with like, okay, hey, what are your goals? What do you want to achieve? What are you looking to grow, develop? So I think the
Mhm.
thing is there are more teacher trainings that are teaching the business of yoga now, but a lot of teacher
Yeah.
trainings are still like teaching basically what I learned 10 years ago, which is not a
Yeah.
lot. So people like want to do this, but they're like, "Hey, I have no idea how to get hired." Or I've been
Mhm.
teaching at studios for a little while and like ready to kind of expand a little bit more, but I have like no idea how to do that. So
Mhm.
supporting people with that. And I really like supporting yoga teachers with that like next level. Like, okay, I've been teaching for like a couple of years. I've
Mhm.
got some teaching experience, like how do I actually kind of step out on my own away from the studio, or
Mhm.
100% from just working at studios and actually like create my own thing and bring in my own income.
Mhm.
That's something that I really like to support teachers with.
And I mean, I feel like the yoga teacher or training world is quite saturated from my perspective. I started the yoga teacher training not because I want to make this a full time. It's more just a reset for my body and my mind and then figure out
Hmm.
what's going to happen in the future. I wonder
Yeah.
if would you recommend someone, still do the yoga teacher training, or the whole industry is quite saturated. It's kind of hard for them to make a living being a full-time yoga teacher that way.
Yeah, it's a good question. And it's kind of an interesting topic. And I think that people have sort of different opinions on this. I think that my opinion has always been that, there's like what 7 or 8 billion people on the planet, which is like a lot of people, right? And I think until like
Yeah.
every single person on the planet is practicing yoga, I think that there's still like room for us as yoga teachers, an
Mhm.
opportunity for us as yoga teachers. I think that everyone has their own kind of unique flavor, their unique spin on things, their unique offerings, their way to kind of get their stuff out into the world is different. And so I think that well, yes, you can say that it is saturated in some ways, especially like big cities can really feel this way. Like there's yoga studios like on every corner, right? And like
Mhm.
everyone and their dog has done a yoga teacher training. You're like, okay, this doesn't feel like that unique of a thing. I think that
Yeah.
there's still like a lot of corners of the world where it's like yoga is very unknown and people don't practice a lot and people don't have the studio opportunities and stuff. So I think we do
Mhm.
have opportunity to reach people. And then remembering that, like, yeah, we're different. Everyone has something unique to offer, which is cool.
Mm.
So does that answer your question?
Yeah, I would say so. I think there's because like from my cohort, the summer we have 19 of us. Everyone, I don't think there's only a few people who might think about doing this full time. I think most people are either having a full time job, they want to do this on the side, or kind of just venture into the yoga world, or they're just taking a break for themselves. They're not thinking
Hmm.
about too much into the future yet. So I think from my perspective, it's more like if you step into yoga teacher training right now, I think it's just give yourself time to reset and figure out what's next. Don't put too much pressure on, oh, I need to make this a big career. I need to make it in the yoga world. Because,
Yeah.
yeah, there's so much free yoga online already. And for me, I take a lot of online classes, 15, 10 minutes just to stretch. I
Hmm.
think for me, I feel like if you want to make good financial return for that, either you do coaching courses or private lessons, or you specialize in a certain area, like you're mentoring to yoga nidra. Maybe you can do yoga for runners, yoga for skiers as a specialty that's unique to you. Maybe you play the sports and you also do yoga, like a combination of a unique character together. I think
Hmm.
that will help you stand out in ever saturated market, in any market, I think, currently.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and you know what? I went into my 200-hour not sure if I wanted to teach. I, like, kind of had this, like, inkling that I thought I was gonna teach, but I was like, I'm just gonna go in and be really open-minded, and I think that if you just have this kind of, like, desire to do a yoga teacher training, I think it's, like,
Mhm,
it's a great place for self-discovery. It's a great place for
mm,
personal practice. It's a great place for just learning more about yoga and realizing that the well is really deep in terms of yoga. So I think
mhm,
that it's like even if you never teach a class, a teacher training program can be extremely expansive. I feel like you can grow so much from it even if you never make like a cent off of teaching. So I think it can be
mhm,
really really worth it in that way, which is really cool. Um but yeah, I think that for me, I really like the idea of like having yoga as like and teaching as something kind of on the side. I think
mhm,
that because yoga is such like an energetic practice, like I think that
mm,
people really sense those subtle energies. And so when we come
mhm.
into the space and we are thinking about like, hey, I need X amount of people in class so I can make more money teaching this class so that I can like pay my
Yeah.
rent, like that's an energy, right? Like we show up with
Mhm,
that energy. And so for me, I've always, and this is what I've like kind of taught as well, as like we need to be able to like fill our cup in order to serve other people. And that puts like a
exactly.
complicated aspect on creating a business with it, right?
Mhm,
Because we have to be able to like make enough money to survive and to pay our bills. It can happen from yoga, but that also takes like quite a bit of work, right? And not everybody
mhm,
wants to do that. Not everybody's cut out for it. It's not everybody's path.
mhm.
And so, yeah, for me, I was always like, hey, I want to make sure I have something else that's like supporting me so that I'm not going into class, like feeling this, like, I don't know, like pressured
Anxiety.
energy. Yeah, exactly. Like, I don't want to bring that into like the yoga studio space. And I've actually
Mhm,
always felt that too, like when I like meet with coaching clients and I'm like getting like before I ever like have somebody pay me for something, I always like
mhm.
to like have, a 20 or 30-minute call to hear about their goals and make sure we're a good fit to work together and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I don't want to show up there being like, hey, if this person doesn't decide to work with me, like I can't eat, you
Yeah.
know? Like
Uh-huh.
that's like such a tense energy that I'd be coming in with. And so for me, like knowing that I have abundance and things that are supporting me so that I can like be
Mhm.
easeful in the things that I'm doing, the teaching that I'm doing, I think has always been like something that's important for me.
Yeah.
So yeah, I like the idea of like having another job or another gig you're doing or something else. And it is
Mhm.
interesting, like, I've taught for Visoha for 5 years, and so I've
Mhm.
seen, like, a lot of people come through the program, and it is cool to see, like, lots of people have gone on to do yoga therapy, lots of people have gone on to do, like, massage, some people have opened, like, private practices, and then
Mhm.
other people are like, "Hey, I teach, like, 1 or 2 classes a week, or I teach here and there, I run, like, events once in a while, and I do something else on the side to support myself," and I think whatever, like, flavor you decide is great. Like just whatever kind of works for you.
Yeah, I agree on the energy part of the class because I've been to yoga class and I did not enjoy it the whole an hour that I was there. On yoga teacher manual, it says you have, as a teacher, you have to present yourself in your best ability, like your best form or best mental capacity so you can help and lead and guide other people. What is important for me to in this journey is like I don't know about Mexico, but Vancouver is a very lonely city.
Mm.
Everyone is like, especially when winter comes, it's raining, everyone stay in their house, nobody's talking to each other. We all have this like seasonal depression as we're talking about.
Yeah.
So it's good to meet people because you're spending 12 weeks. For us, Visoha is like 12-week program every
Hmm.
weekend doing yoga, chatting, exchanging energy because you're in that same space for so long. I feel like I made a lot of great friends. I'm still keeping in touch with a few people, not in the group that we hang out. I go see them and where they work. It's that community and friendship is what I think it's worth it, even, if you're not going to become yoga teacher afterwards. I'm not sure you made any friends, back when you start taking yoga, you still kept in touch with them.
Yeah, actually, I went to Bali for my 200 hour, and
Mhm.
there was a girl who she's from Minnesota, but she was living in Montana at the time, who was on my same connecting flight.
Mhm.
And so the teacher training program had actually like connected us on Facebook and just said like, "Hey, you guys are on the same flight from Taipei to, I
Yeah.
think like Denpasar or something like that." And she's like got very, very, very blonde hair, like kind of white blonde hair, and I like found her immediately, and I don't know, we just started talking and we were like instant best friends. And so then we spent like 30 days together going through our teacher
Mhm.
training. And it was really cool because, I was going back to Alberta, she was going back to Bozeman. Those are like relatively close to each other, considering that we
Mhm.
like, we didn't plan to like meet or anything. And so we've seen each other. We had kind of like a big gap over the pandemic years and then me entering motherhood and stuff, but we just saw each other last summer and prior to like the few years before we made an effort to either she would come up or I would go down and we'd see each other every year. And we like talk on the phone every like let's say like once a quarter type thing. And when we talk
Mhm.
on the phone, we talk for like 3 hours. And
Of
we're in
what
like
happened last 3 months.
yeah, no, I actually, like, we just and it's always, like, no time has passed, so, like, the short answer is yes, like, one of my, like, closest girlfriends came out of my first teacher training, and then,
Mhm.
yeah, with my 300 hour, we had a very small group, and so we were very, very tight-knit, and
Mhm.
there's a few people that I've, like, kept in touch with. I haven't seen anyone since my training, which is in 2019, so it's been a couple years,
Yeah,
but
COVID probably just, like, separate everyone. Like, you don't know where they are at this moment.
yeah, for sure, yeah, no, you're totally right. I feel like COVID did like put this kind of like gap in the ability to like see people and stuff like that. But yeah, I
Mhm.
feel like it's just like when you spend that type of like intimate time together and you go through that like this like deep soul searching together, it's like you're kind of just like bonded in a
Mhm.
way, in a different sort of way than you are with other people. And I
Yeah.
had quite a big cohort for my 200 hour, and I think I'm friends with like almost everyone from it on Facebook. So I'm like seeing like, who's teaching and like
Mhm.
they're living all over the world. Like there's some people in Canada, the US, Australia. It's like Europe. It's really cool to like see
Mhm.
these people that like had such like a meaningful impact on my life.
And you guys are at Mexico for how long since since you moved there?
Yeah, so we've lived here full time and we moved to Mexico, I guess, full time at the fall of 2020.
Mm.
Prior to that, we were spending about half the year here. So we first like moved to Mexico City, I guess, in 2017.
Mhm.
I've lived, yeah, I guess like 5 years full time in Mexico.
And what was the choice of moving from Alberta to Mexico? Like, two different very different city.
Very, very different. Yeah. So in kind of that discovery period that we were talking about, part of what we were playing around with was this idea of like, could we work and travel? Like, could we
Mhm.
continue working while also traveling? So while we were like working our jobs, we were also working on ways to build income online. And
Mhm.
so in I guess like the fall of 2015, my husband got a job in Atlanta. And
Mm,
so he had like a full-time in-person job, like work visa, all that type of thing. I moved down with him. And that was really like the first, like, hey, like I didn't have a work visa. So I actually like couldn't just go to Starbucks and get a job or go to Lululemon and get a job. So I kind of was figuring out how to work online. And kind of by the end of that, like a year later, we both had like enough income coming in online for us to travel. And so we spent, I think, like 8 months in Asia, kind of like 2016, 2017, like in that time period. My husband got offered a full-time job but the only thing it required was that he didn't have to be in any specific place, but he had to be on like North American time zones. And so
mhm,
we were kind of like, hey, where do we want to go back to Alberta? Do we want to like spend our 6 months in the US? And we decided to try Mexico. We'd heard amazing things about Mexico City, and Mexico has like 180 days as a tourist. And so, yeah, we came
mhm,
down here and we really like fell in love with it. And so we were kind
mhm,
of doing like our 6 months for, I guess, a couple of years. And then at the beginning of 2021, we applied for residency here and got that.
mhm.
So, yeah, now we don't have to leave.
Do you speak the language? Like, I'm assuming they speak Spanish in Mexico, or you get by just speaking English, which is totally fine.
Yeah, so I speak Spanish,
Oh,
but
you
you
speak
can
Spanish, okay.
also, yeah, my Spanish is, I feel like saying like it's fluent might be like a little bit boisterous of my
I'll
abilities.
assume you're fluent.
I can do everything I need to do in Spanish, so I speak like an
Uh-huh,
advanced level of Spanish. But yeah, when I had like studied Spanish a bit in like high school, and like then I traveled to Spanish speaking countries. We took
mhm.
Spanish lessons when we were in South America in 2014, but when we moved to Mexico City in 2017, I was like, hey, I need to take some Spanish lessons because I described my level of Spanish as like fluent in restaurants.
You have conversations at least, so you understand.
I like understood what they were asking me, and I like knew all the words for like the food, and like I could like read a menu and stuff.
Mhm,
If somebody was like wanting to ask me something further, it was like pretty basic. And so I just,
mhm.
yeah, started learning from there. And so I've just been continuing to learn. I mean, I feel like having kids here has been huge. You know, my kids have a pediatrician who doesn't speak English.
Right.
The midwife who delivered both my babies doesn't speak English. And like we have a
Mm,
nanny that works for us who doesn't speak
mhm,
English. And the lady who cleans in
mhm.
my house doesn't speak English. So it's just been like putting myself in these situations where like,
Mhm.
you know, and
You have
obviously
to speak Spanish.
technology is great. It's super helpful and stuff. We can use like Google
Mhm,
Translate or Chat GPT to help us. But ultimately it's been like my life outside of like my work really, and like I guess, like, my husband's Canadian as well, so he speaks English. Like, our family
mhm.
unit is mostly in Spanish. So, yeah.
Cool. I mean, I want to respect your time. We're approaching the 1 hour mark. I think we're having maybe a few last questions for new yoga teacher who want to venture
Okay.
into the new world
Yeah.
about, I guess, your thoughts of authenticity and alignment. What advice, like a few advice you would give to new teachers and entrepreneurs that's finding their own rhythm and their own path forward?
Yeah. Yeah, so this is something that, you know, we did in the teacher training together, but I would really suggest people to really get clear on your why. I think that this
Mm-hmm.
is really important. Like, actually sit down, journal about it. Like, what is my why for wanting to teach? What is my why for being a yoga teacher? And then get really clear on what your values are. And I think that understanding those two pieces are going to be very foundational for you as you kind of enter into this space that might challenge you in terms of like, hey, do I want to say yes to this opportunity? Or like, maybe this person's giving me like a vibe that I don't love. Do I
Mm-hmm.
trust that or do I not trust that? I think when we're
Yeah.
really like rooted in ourselves and who we are and like what's important to us, then we
Mm-hmm.
can really like show up more authentically. And I think that anytime like your authenticity is challenged or you're put in a position where you feel like you're maybe not showing up in that way, like coming back to that, like what your why is, who you are, what's important to you is going to be really important. So I think those are huge. And then the other thing that I think is really important is like always coming back to your practice, whatever that looks like. And for some of us, that's like, I mean, that could be a journaling practice, honestly. It could be a meditation practice, or it could be like some sort of an intuitive movement practice. I think sometimes we can get like so caught up in like hey, teaching, like this place, this place,
Mhm.
this place, like invoicing here. Okay, now I got to do marketing. I'm sending a newsletter. Like, okay, I haven't posted on social media for 5 days. Like, it's just like the
That's
chaos of
me
like,
right now.
I mean, and I get like those too. I think it's
Uh-huh.
just like coming back to like, like why we started this whole thing, like why you ever practiced your first yoga class or why you kept coming back to yoga and just like really
Mhm.
like rooting yourself in that, I think is how we show up
Mhm.
authentically and really true to who we are.
Absolutely. That's amazing. So I have this little segment in my podcast. It's like the previous guest, which is Chantal. I have a question for the next guest. So the question from Chantal for you is, what is that you plan to do with your one and wild, precious life?
Ooh, I love that. I was really tempted because I watched part of her interview to be like, what is her question that she left me with? And I was like, no, no,
To
I'm going
know
to
the
wait for it to
end.
be a surprise so you can get like a really like not pre-planned
Live.
answer. Okay, so I was at this workshop when I was in university many years ago. I think it was like my second year of university. So I was maybe like
Mhm.
19 years old. And we did this exercise where we wrote down on pieces of paper all the things that were important to us. And this could be material
Mhm.
items, like ways that we wanted to feel. And we just like kind of started eliminating them. They gave us some like question prompts. And we had to see what like one thing was left for us. And the thing that
Mhm.
got left for me was the word happiness. And I feel like this
Oh,
is stuck for me in terms of like the thing that I want to feel, the thing that I want to get out of my life is to feel happy. Just kind of tuning into that consistently, like what makes me feel happy, what's making me feel excited, because I feel like life is precious, right? Life is
yeah.
like it's delicate and we don't know how long we're going to get or what it's going to look like. Like anything can happen. And I think that showing up and choosing happiness and doing the things that make us happy, I think that's like ultimately what's important to me. And I think that that's what drives this like desire for me to like live my life differently and to do things
Mhm.
differently is like, and this is what drove me to be like questioning, do I want to stay in a corporate job? Does this
Yeah.
make me happy? Sure, there's elements of it, but like deep down, my core, if I'm not happy, I think I need to shift something. And so for me right now, I feel like that really looks like spending quality time with my family, quality time with my
Mhm.
kids, seeing the world, adventuring, saying yes to things that like feel good to me, just being really present with my friends and family and those relationships that nurture me.
Mhm.
So yeah, I think that's it.
Yeah, I think that takes a lot of courage to just because there's a lot of burdens, on ourselves of responsibility from other people, what other people are thinking. To take a leap forward and follow your passion, your happiness is something that I think a lot of people think about in their head, but never actually did it in the real life. So I applaud to you for moving forward and, mother of so many beautiful kids. I don't have any kids right now. I'm looking forward to that. I'm also kind of scared. So,
Yeah, it's the best and
so
the hardest.
yeah, so I'm happy to see that someone has done it, with support of your husband and beautiful kids and in Mexico. So that's great to see that possible in another side of the world. And I guess for you, what would you ask the next guest?
Yeah, so the question I had is it's a little bit similar to Chantel. So if you want me to think of a new one, I can. But the question I was thinking about before this that I wanted to ask was if you were given one day to live, like you have one more day of your life, like how would you spend your day?